But first up, I guess I'll talk about Adam Schiff, because Adam Schiff, as you know, was the leader of the coup cabal against President Trump. He orchestrated the Ukraine smear. Before that, he was orchestrating the Russiagate smears, lying repeatedly about the president, engaging in unethical behavior 6 ways to Sunday to try to remove the president of the United States, illicitly and unlawfully, in my view. So that's why when they call it an impeachment, I don't think it should be called impeachment, it should be called a coup. Because a coup is something you do when you have no lawful basis, no good faith basis to remove a government official. A coup is what you do when you abuse your powers, abuse the Constitution, and try to remove the head of a government. And that's what Adam Schiff tried to do. And in doing so, like most cousters, he, is that a word, cousters? But it sounds a good one. It sounds like it might be a good one here. He broke the law or violated his oath of office to uphold the Constitution, or otherwise abused his authority to target Trump. And one of the ways he did that was secretly subpoenaing and obtaining the phone records of people around Donald Trump, specifically his lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, specifically his other lawyer, Jay Sekulow, specifically a member of Congress, Devin Nunes, specifically other lawyers close or allied to Trump, Victoria Toensing and Joe Geneva, specifically reporters such as John Solomon and who knows who else. But all those phone records were published as a result of illicit subpoenas targeting Rudy Giuliani and this gentleman, Mr. Parnas, who was close to Giuliani for a bit, and his records were also subpoenaed. Now, you may not know this, but your phone records are supposed to be private and secured, and only to be released if they're subject to lawful subpoenas. And a lawful subpoena typically is a subpoena that is issued with the approval of a court, not based on Adam Schiff's say-so. That's what happened in this case. You had Schiff subpoenaing the phone records, I think it was AT&T, at least the public reporting is, and then taking those records, it was, again, there was no court oversight. He just did it because he wanted to. And then he took those records, looked at them, and then published phone material from other people who may have been talking to Giuliani. And that's why all these other people got caught up in it. So he not only illicitly subpoenaed those phone records, then he violated their rights by publishing their confidential phone data of people like Nunes and company. And of course, it was all to get Trump. So one way to get around the attorney-client privilege, one way to get around objections that President Trump is having to documents being subpoenaed out of his White House, was to do an end round around it by going and trying to get the phone records of his lawyer. An incredible abuse. I don't think it's legal. I think it should have been criminally investigated. I don't think AT&T, if indeed that was the phone company, should have given him the records. So that's, that is just one element of the coup attack targeting President Trump. And frankly, it was one of the reasons the Senate should never have given Schiff the time of day on an impeachment trial. They should never have allowed him to come in before the Senate. They should have said, this is your game, your coup attack was full of prosecutorial misconduct, and we're not going to allow it to go to trial. Courts do that all the time. And that's what the Senate should have done. But they didn't. But the president was acquitted nevertheless, despite this awful abuse targeting him. The question is there going to be accountability? Is there going to be accountability about what Adam Schiff and his coup cabal did? And what Judicial Watch does is that we think of ways to hold government officials accountable when the regular processes don't want to. Or I shouldn't say regular, but things, entities and government entities or legal processes that ought to work aren't working. The ethics process on the Hill is broken. The Justice Department doesn't want to do anything. And they're certainly not against Adam Schiff, that's for sure. So it's up to Judicial Watch to come in. Once again, we go to federal court and we sued. And what we did was we sued under this theory of the law that you, the American people, and Judicial Watch obviously, have a common law right to public information. Specifically, these outrageous subpoenas that Schiff had secretly issued to try to get the phone records, or successfully get the phone records of Giuliani and others. So we sued in federal court. I think, when did we sue? We sued in, it was late last year. Yeah, it was December. We asked for the records in December. Then we ended up suing a little bit later. As we said, the records are of critical public importance as the subpoenas were issued without any lawful basis and violate the rights of numerous private citizens. Remember, all these people he was targeting are innocent. Yes, innocent. Disclosure of the requested records would serve the public interest by providing information about the unlawful issuance of the subpoenas. The requested records fall within the scope of the public's right of access to governmental records as a matter of federal criminal law. And so you file something in court, and then, of course, we sued Mr. Schiff and the House Intelligence Committee, the Select Committee on Intelligence that authorized these subpoenas. And they responded. Now, they responded using your tax dollars, of course. I guess that's not surprising, but you still could be outraged by it. The House could have just given us the records rather than fight us, but instead they're spending your money to fight our right to know. So the Schiff is being represented for lawyers in the Office of General Counsel in the U.S. House of Representatives. So it's not just Schiff, it's the entire House majority that is fighting us here, Nancy Pelosi and company. And they think that they are above the law here. You won't believe their arguments they're using to try to stop Judicial Watch's lawsuit. As I summarized it, well, actually, I'm going to read you the table of contents because that's a classic. It shows you they threw everything but the kitchen sink at us in trying to stop us. But it shows you also how arrogant they are in terms of their assertion of privilege to stop these records from being produced. Privilege, yes. They're asserting privilege to keep secret records. Remember, there was a president, his name was Trump, who was impeached for doing the same thing? Well, Adam Schiff is now doing what he impeached President Trump for doing. Except this is different because these privileges are fraudulent as a matter of law, in my view. So they're not even made in good faith. The court, this is from the argument they make. This is the table of contents. This court lacks jurisdiction over the House defendants because their sovereign immunity has not been waived. This court lacks jurisdiction over House defendants under the speech or debate clause. There's a privilege. Sovereign immunity, it's another privilege. What's sovereign immunity? It's the idea that you can only sue a government entity unless unless there's statutory authority or waiver to do so. Of course, what they don't want to talk about is one way to get around that and challenge that under even sovereign immunity privileges is the allegation of misconduct, which they pretend we don't allege. Plaintiff fails to state a claim for which relief can be granted. FOIA preempts the plaintiff's common law right of access claim. So they're saying because FOIA applies to the executive branch, therefore Congress is exempt from open records requests under common law, even though FOIA exempts Congress. So wrap your head around that. And then they say plaintiff is not entitled to review the subpoenas because they are not public records, which means they're secret. So you can't get them even if you have a right to them because they're secret. So that's the attitude. So Judicial Watch can't see them because of the speech or debate clause privilege, because of the sovereign immunity issue, because of they are immune from FOIA and transparency law at all. The records are secret. And yes, they say at the end of the brief, the public doesn't have a right to see them. They're not important enough for the public to see them. That the interest the committee has in their secrecy overrides the public interest in their disclosure. What I think is interesting, so this is Schiff's argument. He's above the law, but it's an even broader issue than whether Judicial Watch is able to get these records under the Freedom of Information Act. Not under Freedom of Information Act, under the general transparency law that's out there in federal common law. The issue is, can Congress, on its own, secretly subpoena your phone records and spy on you and then publish those records with zero accountability? Zero accountability. Adam Schiff in the House of Representatives tells us through this court pleading that they should be able to spy on you, take your phone records that are protected by law, that if a law enforcement agency sought them, they would need a court-authorized subpoena to do so. They're saying they don't need that. They can issue the subpoena on their own power and get your phone records. So there's been this big debate about FISA. There's been this big debate about Spygate and whether the FBI and whether the CIA or the Justice Department broke the law or abused their power by targeting President Trump and then candidate Trump with unlawful spying. And that's the only thing we need to worry about. Adam Schiff shows you we also need to worry about Congress spying on the American people. Because what Adam Schiff is saying in court, and obviously the media isn't terribly interested in covering this, Adam Schiff is telling you, we can spy on you, America, and there's not a darn thing you can do about it. You can't ask us questions about it under transparency law, and Lord knows if you wanted to sue us about it, these same arguments would hold. How do you like that? So I want you, as a project this week, call your members of Congress and ask them what they think of that position. Democrats and Republicans, let them know what's being said on their behalf by the House General Counsel. That they can spy on you, America, and there's not a darn thing you can do about it. And as I've told you before, the coup attack against President Trump was never just about President Trump. It was about you. Your right to decide who should be your leader. Your rights to be protected from the predations of corrupt government officials who are willing to violate the Constitution, trample all over your rights as your God-given rights to achieve a political outcome. And in this case, Adam Schiff obviously violated the rights of President Trump. I would say he violated the rights of Giuliani and those other Americans who were caught up there, caught up in those phone records disclosures. He just published them. He went and snooped. AT&T wrongly gave him the records. They shouldn't have given him the records to begin with, but they did. So today, or yesterday, it was President Trump Schiff was targeting. Then it was Rudy Giuliani. Then it was Devin Nunes, a fellow member of the House. Then it was Jay Sekulow. Then it was two lawyers who appear on TV defending the president, exercising their First Amendment rights, Victoria and Joe. John Solomon, an independent journalist. And these are only the subpoenas we know about. What other subpoenas did they issue? Did they take my phone records? I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me given Schiff's corruption. He hates us, I'm sure, because of our ethics complaints against him. So we're in court now, and we'll see what the federal court does. And one of the reasons I get excited about this, I'm excited that Judicial Watch is doing this great work, but I'm also excited in a negative way in the sense that why are we the ones doing it? A little help here. Justice Department, other honest members of Congress who are willing to hold Schiff accountable for his misconduct. Where's the media? That's why we're in a crisis. I mean, the coronavirus isn't going to kill our republic unless the government actually does something significant, presuming the government doesn't really screw things up too bad. This is the sort of thing that will kill our republic, folks. This unchecked abuse by members of Congress who now think they can spy on you the way the NSA can. Just take your records secretly. That's their legal position. And it was detailed in this court pleading. It's available on our internet site, judicialwatch.org, and elsewhere. So go ahead and look at it.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all the latest news from Judicial Watch.